They say that Saturdays are for the boys, but Saturdays are also for college football, whether it be for its traditions, its passion, or kids that simply have a love for the game of football. But in recent years, so what we have seen is the NCAA, they have completely lost sight of what makes college football so special. Whether it be allowing conferences to exist in a place even though it makes no geographical sense, whether it be because of seeing rivalry games ceasing to exist for long periods of time, or whether it being allowing players to transfer again and again and again. In order to save college football, it needs to break away from the NCAA completely. It needs to break away in order to save the very game that we all love and enjoy. Welcome to the NCSA Dynasty, the National Collegiate Sports League. Welcome to the series, and welcome to the most immersive sim league on the YouTube platform. Welcome home. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to a brand new series on the channel. We are bringing that college football revamp back, and not only are we bringing college football revamp back here on the channel, but we are also bringing the most comprehensive and world-building universe that you will see in all of college football YouTube. So you're going to be really excited about this episode 1, man. Make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button if you do have to be brand new, and welcome to the NCSL, known as the National Collegiate Sports League. And in the NCSL, we are going back to a time, as I mentioned in that intro, where we get back to conferences that actually make sense. Regional rivalries being brought back in a playoff system that is going to be exciting from start to finish, man. So I hope you guys are excited for this episode. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button if you do happen to be brand new to the channel as well, because by doing so, not only does this bring us a little bit closer to that next like and subscribe, but what this also does is this brings this video out to more college football fans like yourself who are craving for the next college football season to come. So with that being said, all of that being wrapped up, let's go ahead now and introduce the new conferences here in this NCSL Sim League. So we start off with how the ACC is going to look like, and it's broken down into 2 divisions. The first division is the Carolinas division that has teams like Clemson at the top, as well as teams like Charlotte, Virginia Tech, South Carolina, and Wake Forest and Appalachian State to round things up. And then on the other side, we have the Commonwealth division. I couldn't type the whole thing in because turns out there's a character limit for division names, but this is the Commonwealth division. And the Commonwealth division for the ACC is North Carolina, NC State, East Carolina, Old Dominion, Duke, and Virginia. Meanwhile, in the American Conference, you'll see a bunch of teams that take the Midwestern part of the entire country. In the American Conference, we have the Frontier Division, which has some teams in, those flyover states in the country. Teams like Missouri, Nebraska, Minnesota, and as well as teams like Kansas State, Iowa State, and the Kansas Jayhawks. Meanwhile, in the Lake Division, these are teams closer to the Great Lakes. We have the Iowa Hawkeyes, as well as teams like Bowling Green, Central Michigan, Wisconsin, as well as Western and Eastern Michigan. As for the Big 12 Conference, these are primarily teams that are in the states of Texas and in Oklahoma, mostly in that state of Texas, so it's going to be a bar fight in terms of recruiting. In the Texas Conference, we have our 2 divisions, the Alamo Division, so the southern part of the division that has teams like Texas A&M, Baylor, the Texas Longhorns, and of course Rice, Houston, UTEP, and the UTSA Roadrunners. As for the other side of the division, the north side is the Lone Star Division that has teams like Oklahoma, TCU, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, SMU, Tulsa, and the North Texas Mean Green. Up next is the Big Ten Conference, which will be composing of teams that are in the eastern part of the Midwest. In the Big Ten division, we have what I like to call the Buckeye division. These are all teams that are in the great state of Ohio, so dominated by Ohio State, but also got teams like Akron, Kent State, Toledo, the Ohio Bobcats, and one of the newcomers to the actual Power 5, the Cincinnati Bearcats. On the other side is the Hoosier Conference, and the Hoosier division is teams that are primarily made up of teams that are in the state of Indiana. However, there is some Michigan elements like Michigan and Michigan State, plus we have the Ball State Cardinals, the Miami Redhawks, and Purdue and Indiana as well. After that is the New Look Conference USA, and the Conference USA is primarily made up of teams that are in the northeastern part of the country. It's also divided up into two divisions, one of which is the Colonial Division, so the Conference USA South Division, that contains Navy, Rutgers, James Madison, the Maryland Terrapins, the Temple Owls, who do have a custom coach, I'll get into that later, and the Texas State Bobcats. They were kind of an odd man out, and I didn't want them to be an independent. Then in the northern part of the conference is what I call the Union Division. This will have teams like Penn State, Army, the Pittsburgh Panthers, and rounding out the group is Syracuse, Buffalo, and the Boston College Eagles. Of course, like I said, is the independents, and in an ideal world, I would love to just have everybody in a conference, but College Football Revamped does force me to have two independent schools, and those unlucky schools are ULM and the San Jose Spartans. However, depending on how things shake out in this college football universe, there is ways for them to go into a conference. I will go into that towards the end of this season, so that'll be at a later episode. As for the MAC Conference, I would like to introduce to you the Blues Division. This is where, that blues style of music comes from, that Tennessee and Kentucky kind of area. And in this division, you got, of course, the Tennessee Volunteers, Vanderbilt, Western Kentucky, and rounding out your group is Louisville, Mid-Tennessee State, and the Kentucky Wildcats. On the opposite side is the Great Lakes Division, teams that are also closer to the Great Lakes, so your Northern Division essentially. Got Notre Dame running the group, but you also got teams like West Virginia, Northern Illinois, Marshall, and Illinois and Northwestern rounding out your group. Now, for the Mountain West, this is going to be mainly the southwestern part of the country, but not exactly by the coast necessarily. So we have the Desert Division that has teams like Colorado, Arizona State as well, and then you got UNLV, Air Force, and New Mexico rounding out your group. But then you have your teams that are a little bit closer to the Rocky Mountains, so this is the Mountain Division in the Mountain West Conference. We got Utah leading the way, but some good programs as well like Boise State, BYU, Colorado State, and of course Utah State and the Wyoming Cowboys. But they're not the only Pacific Conference that is out there, as the new look Pac-12 has both these are the teams out west that are actually closer to the Pacific coastline, that Pacific Ocean. It is divided into two separate divisions. First, we have the Northwestern Division that does have teams like Washington, Oregon, California, as well as the Oregon State Beavers, Nevada, and the Washington State Cougars. Then we have our actual Pacific Division that has USC leading the way and UCLA, plus there's San Diego State, Stanford, the Fresno State Bulldogs, and of course, the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. After that is the new look SEC Conference, and from a division name standpoint, this is one of my personal favorites. Down south we have, or actually up north, we have the Peach Division, mostly made up of teams in the state of Georgia as well as surrounding states. You of course have Georgia, Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern, and the Georgia State Panthers, as well as Coastal Carolina and UAB to round out your group. Not to mention you do have the Sunshine Division, and these are all teams from the great state of Florida. Miami is in here, but you also got teams like Southern Florida, the actual Florida Gators, the Florida State Seminoles, and of course UCF and the Florida Atlantic Owls. And the last conference that I want to introduce is the New Look Sun Belt. These are mainly teams that are still in the southeast, but are not exactly on the coastline, or at least not in Florida. We have what I like to call the Bayou Division that mostly has teams from the state of Louisiana, as well as Arkansas. Got LSU, the Arkansas Razorbacks, and Arkansas State. Not to mention you also have Tulane, Louisiana Tech, and rounding out the group is the Memphis Tigers and the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. And then in the South Division, we have the Dixie Division, which is mostly teams of Alabama, as well as in Mississippi as well. Leading this group is the Ole Miss Rebels leading into year one, but we also have Auburn, Alabama, who's not as good as they used to be, Mississippi State, South Alabama, Southern Miss, and Troy. Now, you guys are probably wondering why you see teams like Alabama, for example, who maybe not, they're still good, but they're not as dominant as what they used to be. Well, this is actually with the 2022 rosters when I set this Dynasty file up, but we moved it 10 years from now, so to have a brand new college football universe completely separate to what we see in real life. Now, there is some really good players, but there's only 199 overall in this dynasty, and that is John Blair. He's the senior running back for the Michigan Wolverines, so look for him to possibly be that first round pick. Now, that being said, it would truly not be a John Jake Gaming series if we didn't have custom people. And not only do we have custom players in this series, but we also have some custom coaches that are going to be a part of this series as well. In year number one, we have 6 custom coaches that will try to work their way in the college ranks. They will start out as level 1s respectfully. So if it's something that you will be interested down the line, definitely make sure to check out my Discord. That is going to be linked in the description. Or you can even check out my channel membership program if you want to have first dibs on any series that I have on the channel. So with that being said, the 6 custom coaches that are coming in starting their college careers here in year number 1, we have Loic McNair, who is going to be the defensive coordinator at Duke. We also have Jake Jacobs, who's going to be a coordinator for the Temple Owls. Dion Kirby is going to be coaching over at Air Force. He's a coordinator. Timmy Hammock Jr. is going to be coaching at Northern Illinois as an offensive coordinator. John Weeks is a coordinator for the Troy Trojans. They actually do have a FCS transfer leading their team. And then you got Natalius, who's going to be leading the squad for the Wyoming Cowboys. But like I said, not only will we end up having custom coaches in this series, but we will also have a fair share of custom players. There are a few that are going to initially be a part of this series. For the year 1 custom player class, we start with the Duke Blue Devils, who actually got a few of them to start things out. TJ Brown being one of them. He's a senior red shirt at corner. We also have Jalen Wallace, a senior red shirt playing at middle linebacker. Rounding out the group, though, is Marco Miller for the Duke Blue Devils, who's a junior red shirt playing that strong safety position. Meanwhile, for the Temple Owls, they'll actually have a custom player at fullback in Jacob Solonsky. He's going to be a senior redshirt from Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Playing at quarterback for the Troy Trojans is J.D. Weeks Jr. He's the son of the offensive coordinator for the Troy Trojans. He's going to be at their backup quarterback here in season number 1. Speaking of quarterbacks, we also have freshman redshirt Christian Bell, who's playing at Iowa State. Havon Cardizon, a true sophomore from Mount Vernon, Virginia, who plays for the James Madison Dukes, now here at the FBS level instead of the FCS. So that was recently reflected by College Football Revamped via a recent update. For the Memphis Tigers, they'll have Jody Gentry, who's a sophomore redshirt from Quantico Station, Virginia. He plays at wide receiver position. And not only will there be custom players, but for those of you that have been on this channel for a little bit, I've had an FCS Dynasty that is still running, albeit in a different format. So what you'll see from year-to-year basis is that you'll see FCS guys transfer to the FBS level and be a part of this specific Dynasty as well. This year in particular, the most notable ends up being James Lee. He was somebody that actually played some very good ball. I believe it was at South Carolina State. He's now here at Georgia, looking to be a first-round NFL draft pick. He had an insane offseason. But how things will go ahead and work from a pacing standpoint is that every episode you will see one full week of college football, and particularly we'll focus in on the nationally televised games throughout the country. So you'll see games like a Wyoming versus Florida State, like a Utah State versus Utah as well, games like that. And there's 16 plus games around the country on a per week basis. So it's going to be a lot of football in these episodes that you guys will be excited about. Not to mention, what you will also see is that there will be a presentation unlike any other on YouTube. So for those of you that are familiar with NFL Red Zone, think of it as the college version of that. We'll check in, of course, towards the end of halves as well, if they're close games, but it's going to be very fast paced. There's going to be a lot of games in not as much time as maybe what the average sim week is. It's going to be a fun one. I hope you guys are excited about this series. This has been a lot of work that's been happening in the background, right? So I hope you guys are excited about this new series. If you are, again, I would truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart if you went ahead, smack that like button for me, and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. This is John J. Gaming on the mic signing off, but bringing you with week number 1 action in the next episode. I'll see you guys there, and I hope you have a good one. Take care, everybody.